Hello and welcome back to Nelson All Over Cards. Today we are going to be talking about round 3 of the Unlimited Power League for Star Wars Unlimited. And round 2 was much closer than round 1. Ryan won round 2 with a 2-1 split. We went all the way to game 3. And I missed the meta. I miscalled what I thought Ryan was going to be doing. I thought he was going to go full aggro to try and combat Vader, which is kind of more of a control, and I was playing a little bit longer game. And so I thought he was going to rush. And so I tried to combat that with a Maul deck, and it did not work as well as I wanted it to, because he went with Count Dooku, which is like a 7 deploy, does a lot of exploit, and can get out a lot of big units very, very quickly with that exploit. So I now have the fun challenge of trying to find something that can beat that. And I've been doing a lot of thinking. I've been doing a lot of thinking because I'm trying to figure out where his deck is going to go. I feel like he's kind of set in that universe with Dooku. I think that that's where he's going. He bought a lot of singles for the deck. I think that he very much enjoyed playing the deck, and so I don't see him shifting away from that playstyle very soon. So I do think that we will see another blue Dooku deck across the table from us when we do play in round 3. And so how do we combat that? Because the Dooku deck is not necessarily a full control deck. It is more of a late mid-range deck, at least that's how I was seeing him play it, with a lot of space units, which was kind of interesting. And so I think there are two schools of thought here, right? Like, we could go full aggro. We saw that in game 2. The one that I won, I went full aggro, just beat him out before resource turn 7, meaning that he never actually got the Dooku drop, and that was a huge hindrance in his game style, or in his gameplay, right? So if you can't get your leader out and we can apply pressure and get that damage to the base before the leader drops and hit that 30, that's very, very mean. Now, I didn't get the card draws to pull off that aggro win. My sideboard was not fully aggro. I think I put a little more things in there to push it a little bit more control. So we could go full aggro and hopefully not have Ryan kind of pull his deck into more of a mid-range to combat the aggro and just kind of take out all of my units. And then once we hit resource turn 6, 7, I don't really have anything to do. So there is that option. The other option would be to kind of stay in the mid-range, focus with, maybe even keep Maul as a leader, and focus more on like the overwhelm, trying to combat those battle droids that he's just pumping out. There's so many battle droids in that deck, and with Maul having overwhelm, we can kind of just kill a lot of those battle droids and hopefully just slow down his game plan, but also still apply pressure to the base, and then just kind of make that strategic, or maybe not even strategic, but the tactical decisions on when to attack the base versus when to take out some of his units. I'm thinking that his bigger units that he's exploiting to get into these like larger unit drops, I'm thinking that that's probably something that I'm not looking to spend too much time trying to deal with. I think there's a couple of drops that I'm more concerned with. There's the I forgot, I think it may be Kalani. I don't actually remember the card name. I'll probably put it over here in the edit. But there's the card that can come out on resource turn 3. It's a 5 drop. You can sack a unit, throw him out there, and then he creates 2 battle droid tokens, and then on attack gives every token unit a +2/+2. That's an issue. Now that unit only has 5 health, so we could take it out with like a B2 attack platform, but then we're losing 5 damage on the base. And I'm a little concerned about that unit. I do think that I'm shifting away from blue, mainly because I do want to be a little bit more aggro. And so I'm looking at a shift into command the green aspect to try and deal with that. But if that happens, if he drops that unit, I in my test games and everything that I've been kind of messing around with, that's an issue. That can be a pretty big issue, because especially then those droids trade with the B2 attack platform. They trade with anything that has 2 health. So I think what I'm trying to figure out and brew up is a deck that doesn't necessarily can combat kind of that turn 2, 3, 4 build, but also apply a lot of pressure. And so we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping that Ryan kind of continues to go into space, and then if we see a lot of space play, we can go full ground and hopefully apply more pressure than he can, because typically ground units have more attack power than those in the space, and we just don't have to worry about it, because if we win the race, we win the race. Yeah, it's super fun. It's super exciting. I think I'm going to go with Command, and I think I'm going to go with ECL. There's a couple Energy Conversion Lab, which is a new base, or an old base, I guess, but a new base to us. It's around, I don't know, maybe 10% of our bankroll at this point, but it does give the option of once per game, you can play a card from your hand that costs 6 or less and give it Ambush. Now, what this can do is completely swing the game for us, especially once we hit, maybe resource turn 5 with a Maul, or 6 if we go with an ATST or something with Overwhelm. But if we have, and this is more of the concept that I'm just kind of like trying to brew up and hopefully be able to pull off. If we have Maul deployed on resource turn 6, he gives all of our other units Overwhelm. So if we ECL a unit Maul in, which we do have one on 2 battle droids, though Maul gets to attack 2 units at the same time. Ambush, you don't see it coming. So if there's 2 battle droids out there, you're attacking and you're applying 8 Overwhelm, which is incredibly powerful. We also have the options with like an ATST with some of that Overwhelm to kind of ambush and just apply, 5 damage to the base that maybe we were not expecting before. There's also the Steadfast Battalion, which could do that. That comes out, I think on 5, actually. I think a Steadfast Battalion is 5, but if we have Maul, Steadfast Battalion becomes a 7/7 Overwhelm. So I think that's kind of where we're looking, trying to win this on resource turn 6 or maybe even resource turn 7, how that lines up. Now, if we do that, the issue would be Rival's Fall, which we know Ryan has some in his deck, which are those that 6 resource cost to feed a unit. That could be our leader. That could be Maul. That could ruin the Overwhelm opportunity. And so knowing that he has Rival's Falls in the deck makes me want to pull my leader into maybe a 5-drop range, but I think we're going to hold off a little bit before we do that. And I'll explain here in a second why. I think how we're going to try and combat that is spend resource turn 4 and 5 building up a board state so that we can outlast his actions on turn 7 or turn 6. I'm sorry. Resource turn 6, where you can play Rival's Fall. And so I can deploy Maul after he has spent resources. If that works, then we have a little bit of time. We can, use that. Use that time to, give all of our units Overwhelm and then apply the pressure. Problem then becomes Dooku comes out next turn. I think after resource 7, we've lost the game. If we make it to resource 8, we're going to have a tough time with this game. And so I think we're really looking at that mid-range, aggro-ish mid-range type build where we're looking to just throw as much damage, hopefully winning on the turn that we drop our leader right before he does that. And I think ECL will help us with that. Because if ECL, the trade-off here is that we're giving up 5 health from our base, so Ryan wins if he hits us for 25 damage on the base. I think we can outlast him, because if he does not take out our units and we're able to maintain the board state and we're not attacking units if we're going full aggro, or we're trading very favorably into these battle droids, then I think we can apply 30 damage before 25 with the deck that I'm looking at versus the Separatist deck that Dooku is running, just trying to get those big units out there. That being said, I don't want to go full aggro. I want to be able to flex a little bit, because if we're going full aggro, that doesn't give us the option to really flex later in the series. So I think we're going to go a little bit mid-range. We're going to keep red. I think we're going to go with ECL. And also some timely interventions to also have some more of those ambushes just kind of available to us. and really kind of go for that surprise win on turn 6, potentially turn 7 if we still do have a Maul that is out there. But I don't see us really keeping Maul more than a turn. Now, when we're building this deck, and I think I'm going to go mostly singles this round, but when we're building this deck, what I want to be thinking about is a potential switch to Heroism. We do have the Maul leader. I'm sorry, the Maul units, which makes it very tempting to stay in Villainy. But I'm thinking that if we can build a Heroism deck that is just straight aggro, and I'm kind of thinking Ahsoka at this point. If we build a Heroism deck that is straight aggro, I think that's going to combat the Dooku because Ahsoka drops 2 turns earlier than Dooku. Ahsoka drops the turn before Rivals Fall. And so we just get a lot more output and a lot more efficiency there. And then if we Rivals Fall Ahsoka, it's not as big of a deal as, killing off Maul. So I'm thinking that is the potential round 4 deck that we're looking at. And in order to do that, I think we're going to go with some fairly inexpensive singles to try and outline that. And if we can find singles that are non-villainy and non-heroism so that we can flex between the Maul and the Ahsoka deck. And I think that Ahsoka deck would also look like a green-red, potentially a yellow-red deck. The last thing that I want to kind of talk about before we dive in, and I've built 900 decks at this point to try and figure it out, but I think the last thing that I want to talk about before we go in there, if I were running the deck that Ryan is running now, I would be looking to add some Power of the Dark Sides, just some more hard removal in that deck, which is basically you choose a unit or enemy. An opponent, thank you, an opponent, and then they destroy a unit of their choice. And so Power of the Dark Side is very good against these like large drops. If you're playing on curve, if you're able to maintain control of the board state, and if I play a 5-cost unit, Power of the Dark Side is 3, you can take that out pretty easily. And so I'm thinking that is probably going to be making it into Ryan's deck. With that being said, I probably want to be playing multiple units every single round to protect against that. That could be battle droids or just token units that we don't look at exploiting. I think we're kind of throwing exploit out the window at this point because we're going to lose the race in exploit to Dooku. And so if we can figure out a way to maybe just get one battle droid or just like smaller units out onto the table that we can choose to kind of block that Power of the Dark Side play, that would be great. So yeah, that's everything that's kind of going around in my head. I think we're going to be looking at a red-green deck this time to also just kind of shore up and say, hey, this is where I think we're going, but we're not going to try and spend too much money on those villainy cards with the anticipated switch to heroism. But I think we can kind of pull a fast one here and say that we went all singles, and tell Ryan this, right? Like, we went all singles. We're going to be shoring up and trying to build up this Maul deck to give him kind of the idea that, if he's going full Dooku and he's spending his time and resources in the Dooku deck and I'm spending my time and resources in the Maul deck, and we have these combating decks here, but really a lot of the singles can be used in Maul or like an Ahsoka or a Han 2 deck. I think we could kind of give him a little bit of information saying, hey, I think maybe through the actions of the deck build that, hey, we're going to be sticking with Maul and kind of pull a fast one in round 4 and switch it up pretty crazy and go heroism, full aggro, and see how that works. And hopefully, if we see Ryan spending a lot of money in some of these control cards, and that's where the money is. A lot of the control cards are expensive. So if we can lure him into a sense to spend his bankroll into control and then swap aggro, that we win, right? And then he's out a lot of money, and I think that sets him up to have a pretty rough rest of the season. Is this going to happen? No idea. No freaking clue at all. But I do think that this is kind of the strategic play that we're going to be making, is go fairly buy a couple of singles to shore up this Maul deck that's a little bit on the faster side of mid-range. Then use those singles, if we can, use those singles that we got in a Heroism deck that then has access to For a Cause I Believe in, K2SO, kind of that realm of a deck build, and see what we do. If we're doing that, we're going to need to save some bankroll. And so this is going to be a little bit less of a spendy round, I think, for us. We're going to spend less money this round than what we normally would in order to have $20 next round that we can really kind of build up that core Ahsoka deck. Or I'm just calling it an Ahsoka deck. It could be really any red leader that drops on 5, red heroism leader that drops on 5. So Han 2, Ahsoka, those kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. We'll see how it goes. But I've been playing around. We're going to build a Maul deck. And hopefully not spend too much money so that we can carry a lot of bankroll into round 4. Because I think our deck is pretty close to a coin flip on winning against Dooku at this point. So I think if we can just shore up, especially if we can buy units that will work in either lane that we choose, I think we have a rough round 3 ahead of us, but setting ourselves up for success in round 4 and 5. So that's where my head's at. We're going to pause here. I'm going to go do a little bit more testing, and when we come back, which will be a split second for you all, we will be taking a look at round 3's deck. Alrighty, see you soon. Peace. Alrighty, here we are. This is going to be the deck for round 3 of Unlimited Power. Now, it's kind of fun. I'm pretty excited. We got a lot of ways to do direct damage to base with like the Reckless Gunslinger. When played, deal 1 damage to each base. Reckless Gunslinger can also be smuggled, and so you can resource it, and then kind of like later, if we're getting really close, in a lot of my test games, we get really, really close. And so if I can surprise Reckless Gunslinger for 1 damage, that could be enough. It's also just like a nice 1-turn drop, or 1 cost drop. We've got the series officer, which I had, when defeated, deal 2 damage to a base. And so I'm not going to be the one to defeat the series officer. I think we're just going to let that one ride. And if Ryan wants to take it out, awesome. That's great. But we're just going to throw damage into the base with it. This is also our Power of the Dark Side protector. So if we do get a Power of the Dark Side, boom, we got the series officer. I think that's going to be the best turn 1 play there. We've got Ryloth militias, which would deal with raids, but a lot of these are troopers for our Relentless Rocket Droid, which becomes a 5/5 on a 4-drop. And that's going to be huge for us right there. What else do we have? Okay, so Daring Raid is 2 damage to a unit or base. More than likely, we're going to go base. Another kind of surprise. So if we hit all 3 of these, which we probably won't in each game, that's 6 damage to the base. That's significant. We got the Timely Interventions, which play a unit from your hand against ambush. You can smuggle it for 2 cost, and so that can get really, really fun if you can go with the heavy fighter and smuggle that in with ambush. The Steadfast Battalion with ambush, it can get pretty nasty very quickly. Ideally, Maul is going to be the best one here, right? Maul with a Timely Intervention or an ECL, especially if Maul, our leader, is deployed. Giving Maul Overwhelm, that's game winning right there, right? We're pushing 8 damage to the base. Very, very hard, I think, to come back from that, especially if we have built our board state up pretty significantly. So ideally, we're going to be ambushing Maul in. Or if we can drop Maul on 5, we can ECL an ATST, a Ruthless Raider, Steadfast Battalion, if we have Maul deployed. And all of this kind of hinges on, Maul getting deployed. That being said, I did put some contingencies in here so that if we do get a Rival's Fall immediately taking out Maul, we are not in the worst case scenario, or worst position possible, right? Because we still have the ECL. We still have like Mercenary Company, right? We're going to get hit on stage 6. So Mercenary Company, ambush overwhelming into a droid, awesome. I expect to see a lot of droids from Ryan, and so I'm hoping that a lot of these overwhelm can kind of deal with that. My biggest concern, I think, is going to be Sentinel. If we have Sentinels, that's going to be tough. The current kind of fixed right now is this heavy fighter. If we go space, we can start exhausting our units in the ground arena, which is where I expect to see the Sentinels, so that we can hit for a 3 or a 6 damage over here on the heavy fighter. But hopefully we don't see too many Sentinels. We have heavies, we have Mauls. I think a lot of the Sentinels in what I remember Ryan's deck being, or what I expected to be, are around the 3 drop. And so if we need to trade, it is not great, but it's also not the worst thing in the world. But that is kind of my biggest issue. We do have some grenade strikes to take out some droids, but also if we see that, what is the calculating mana guard? It's a 3/4 Sentinel. When played, when a friendly unit is defeated. So if we can grenade strike that, take out a droid, that would give it Sentinel. But then if we can overwhelm attack into something, we could be pretty nice. But that is my biggest concern, I think, is kind of those mana guards, because those trade very favorably with a lot of my units. So we'll see how it goes. That, I believe, is a 3-drop. It could be a little bit more, but we also may see that drop faster. Ruthless Raider, when played, when defeated, deal 2 damage to an enemy base, 2 damage to an enemy unit. If we ECL this, we have a lot of, at least last round, we saw a lot of big space units. So we can ECL, throw this in, deal 2 damage to a space unit, attack into the space unit, destroy the space unit. Ruthless Raider dies, throw 2 more damage to another unit, whether that be a Sentinel, and 2 damage to the base. So if we ECL Ruthless Raider, that is a 4 damage swing right there. So there is a lot of like surprise strikes that we're looking for. Timely intervention, ECL, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of direct damage. That's the game plan. We did buy the series officers, the Ruthless Raiders, and I think that was the only thing that we bought that had the villainy tag. Ruthless Raiders in this deck just seems so good. And so if we do end up moving away from Maul, that's fine. This cost us the majority of what we spent this round, which was $5.67. So we're still floating around $10, meaning that going into round 4, we're going to have $25 to play with. And we can get pretty creative with that into creating somewhat of a heroism deck. We can push this one more mid-range. Heroism can go rush. And then if we get lucky, I think at that point we'll probably start opening some more packs, hopefully getting lucky into some control stuff, so that we have kind of the 3 pillars of the LCG, and we can start building up wherever we can combat Ryan the most. That's the deck. Fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll do good. Plan on not necessarily resourcing past 6, maybe 7. If we do have timely interventions, we probably will resource past 6 into 7 so that we can ambush a 6 cost unit. If we resource this, which if we see it in our opening hand, we're resourcing it, then at 7, we can timely intervention a Maul and all that good stuff. So I think I like it. There's a couple of things that I would change if I had an unlimited budget. That'd be just more overwhelm type stuff. But I'm hoping that it works. I'm pretty excited. I do need to change off these sleeves from the Vader. I feel like we've gotten far enough away from Vader that we should swap out the sleeves. I think we're going to go into the Darksaber sleeves. The white sleeves. So if we do switch to Ahsoka, that's very thematic at that point. Plus the white sleeves just look awesome. Sweet. Thank you all so very much for watching. Let me know what you think of the deck down in the comments. And yeah, we'll talk to you all soon. And game's coming soon. Hopefully we got this one. Peace.